Joe Biden got into a heated exchange with CNN reporter Caitlin Collins in regard to his meeting with Vladimir Putin. Now, world leaders are currently in Geneva, and one of the press conferences that Biden agreed to was one with Russian leader Vladimir Putin. Now, Caitlin Collins seems to have an issue with that, and she asked about it. She did not get a friendly response from Biden. Let's watch.
Why are you so confident he'll change his behavior, Mr. President?
Yeah, I'm not confident he'll change behavior. What do you do over there? So when did I say I was confident?
You said in the next 6 months you'll be able to determine.
What I said was, let's get it straight. I said what will change their behavior is if the rest of the world reacts to them and it diminishes their standing in the world. I'm not confident of anything. I'm just stating the fact.
But given his past behavior has not changed, and in that press conference after sitting down with you for several hours, he denied any involvement in cyber attacks. He downplayed human rights abuses. He even refused to say Alexei Navalny's name. So how does that account to a constructive meeting as President Putin?
You don't understand that. You're in the wrong business.
So in the end, if you couldn't hear, he says, if you don't understand why, that's your own business. And to be honest with you, I actually agree with Biden. I just wish he would have handled that a little more tactfully. Clearly he didn't. I think that Caitlin Collins, of course, has the right to ask any question she would like. I just think that the perspective or what she's implying is just honestly dumb. It just reminds me of the Republican Party arguing that we should never negotiate with terrorists. Or no, as a world leader, you unfortunately do have to have diplomatic conversations with other world leaders, whether you like them or not. And I would prefer an open line of communication over, war rhetoric or anything antagonistic that, of course, doesn't actually accomplish anything.
Yeah. So on the substance of it, I just want to say. I agree with you. I think this whole thing of like, are you now going to be confident that Putin's going to do the right thing? And if he doesn't, then is that your fault? No, he's not the boss of Putin. And he's trying to do diplomacy there. We want to reward diplomacy. I don't know if folks know yet, but I'm not a big fan of Putin or his government, right? And I think that they are very nefarious actors. They have their own imperialist agenda, and they care about making money in these different countries that they're involved in, and they use their military in vicious ways, etc. But that doesn't mean you don't do diplomacy with them, and it doesn't mean that Biden is responsible solely for what Putin does. No, you've got to engage people no matter what. We even said Trump did the right thing in engaging Kim Jong-un in the beginning until he bungled it and he got nothing out of it except love letters, right? You still got to do it right. But Biden does get too cranky.
Yeah, he does.
There's something up with him getting constantly like agitated.
You know what it is? He's in his 70s.
I know. It happens when you're older. It's true.
Yeah. So now we just had a rational conversation about it. I mean, we agree, so I think that helps. But the ladies of The View also wanted to chime in. And so there are really no winners in this story, to be quite honest with you. So Meghan McCain tends to agree with Caitlin Collins and had a problem with the way Biden agreed to do this press conference with Putin. Let's hear what her commentary is.
I think part of my problem with the Caitlin Collins moment is that just because Trump was so bad, it doesn't absolve Biden's bad behavior. What he just did was 100% Trumpy. And I think I would just like a little intellectual consistency. If Trump had done that, we would be screaming at the top of our lungs in one way or another. And I just think that I have heard many people in this town in DC talking that the press is getting sick of this, of how sort of censored he is, who he can and cannot talk to, and then spouting off at her in a way that I found not only unbecoming and ridiculous, but to do it in a foreign country in that kind of form, particularly bizarre. And then afterward, after he apologized, he went on Air Force One and continued to talk smack, saying, you guys never give me any levity. You guys always want to be so negative. Well, it's the press's job to speak truth to power. And just because Biden has gotten a pass so far, which he has and continues to do, it is in no one's best interest to treat him like it's state TV. And as Sarah pointed out, that is the biggest difference between us and Russia.
So, I mean, disagree with her perspective, because what she's doing is drawing an equivalency between Donald Trump's behavior in response to Putin versus what Biden was doing. Biden should have an open line of communication with Putin, regardless of how much he might dislike him or disagree with his government or disagree what he's done to journalists and anyone who opposes him in any way. Because again, like, there are certain things that the United States cannot do unilaterally. So if you want to fight climate change, for instance, you do need collaboration and participation by these major countries. That includes Russia, that includes China. So I like the diplomatic talks. I think they're incredibly important. Clearly, Meghan McCain has this blanket perspective on these types of diplomatic talks and doesn't think that they should ever happen, whether it's extreme in the case of Trump or logical in the case of Biden.
But I will say, I agree with her that the press is much softer on Biden.
Yeah,
now,
for
look,
sure.
Trump deserved all the critique that he got because he was nuts, right? But they could ask much more substantive questions of Biden. The only time that they're tough on him is, ironically, when he gets cranky at a reporter. And usually the substance he's not actually that wrong about when he gets cranky, right?
Yeah.
Because they're asking some silly questions. But what would be much better is if they asked tougher, more substantive questions, right? Hey, why does you said you ran on this, but you're doing this, right? You said you were gonna do $15 minimum wage. You haven't done it at all. You have no plan to do it. So are you ever gonna do it? I can go on and on. You could do it on foreign policy as well. You said what Trump's refugee cap was terrible, and then you decided you were gonna keep the refugee cap, etc. And so, are they softer on Biden overall? Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Now, when I say that there are no winners in this story, I really meant it. So I gave you our disagreements in response to Meghan McCain. Then Whoopi Goldberg jumps in and things get fiery.
The thing that I never saw Trump do was apologize to anybody. And I will take it when you know, because sometimes I'm rude to somebody. We're all like that.
I
just want to let me just finish what I'm saying.
Well, with all due respect, I don't care if he's apologizing. He just embarrassed himself.
I don't care that you don't care. Just hear what I'm saying.
I don't care that you don't care.
We're gonna go. Well, then good, Meghan. Then you can be how you always are. We'll be right back.
How you always are.
Classy. This is the country's most important political talk show, according to the New York Times. No, I actually apologize, because when I initially saw that clip, I thought that Whoopi Goldberg was referring to Trump never apologizing for the meetings that he had with Putin, or the relationship he had with Putin, which, to be fair, he has never apologized. But no, what does set Biden apart from Trump is how he responds later to a journalist or to a reporter like Caitlin Collins after he realizes, yeah, maybe I didn't handle that so well. So he did apologize to Caitlin Collins. And so I think that Whoopi Goldberg actually makes an accurate point there. So yeah, maybe she is the good guy in this, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. So we called out Whoopi plenty of times, but in this case, I think she was making a perfectly good point. At least Biden apologizes if he gets something wrong. Trump never does that. And you could see that exchange, Meghan McCain interrupted like nuts. And so that's why Whoopi was super frustrated. And so on this one, I'm on her side, because facts matter. It's not like, oh, we love Whoopi or we hate Whoopi. It's not like that. It depends on what she says. When she's attacking just Democrats, we don't like her. When she says, hey, at least Biden apologizes and Trump never does, that's true, right?
Right.
And then after the commercial break, they apologize to one another, although they shouldn't. Whoopi shouldn't apologize. In that case, Meghan was totally wrong in the way that she handled it. Okay, but I wanted to say one more thing about the differences too. So we don't love a lot of Biden's foreign policy. It's still,
hawkish,
way too hawkish, etc. But is there a difference? Of course there's a difference. So when he meets with Putin and other foreign leaders, there are other members of the United States government, translators, etc. in the room, as any rational president would do it, as every president has done, except Donald Trump. Trump had 5 meetings with Putin where he did not allow anyone else in the room, or ripped up their notes afterwards. In one of the meetings, he took the interpreter's notes away from that person physically and said, you are never to talk about what happened in this room.
Yeah.
In another meeting, he said, I don't want an American translator. I only want Putin and a Russian translator, okay? So if you think that's normal, okay, have at it, host. Oh, Russia gay, no, it's awesome, but our leader doesn't want anybody to, doesn't even want an American translator in the room.
No, nothing suspicious.
Nothing suspicious at all. No, of course. Except no other president has done that. So is there a difference? Yes. At least we don't have a suspicion that Biden is cutting a personal deal for himself because there's other people in the room.
Right.
And there's verification of what was said. So yes, just keep it real on all the facts. Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.